What is good, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Joshua from Ray's Reviews, and since we are less than 20, or somewhat less than 24, a little over 24 hours away from the year 2023 being over, now it's time for me to do my part one of a three-part thing where I am doing a ranking of everything that came out film-wise that I enjoyed. So this is part one where I am ranking every single superhero film that released this year. All four films that came out for Marvel, or well, three or four projects that came out for Marvel, and the four projects that came out for DC. I'm gonna be ranking all of them in this video. Before this video starts, let me know down in the comments what's your ranking of all 8 comic book films, and also I will not be including Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem in this video because I don't necessarily see the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as superheroes. I just see them more as ninjas because they are ninjas. So that's why they are not in this list. But without further ado, let's get into it. So coming in at number 8, I have Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Now, when I think of this film, I think of how bad it is. Well, no. Bad is being too harsh. There are some elements of this movie that I did enjoy. I did like the villains of Anthea, Calypso, and Hespera. I did like them as villains of why they were trying to do what they were doing in the film, and I loved the casting of the rest of the cast. The main thing that draws this film down for me is Zachary Levi as Shazam himself, and the lack of Asher Angel as Billy Batson. The thing that made the first film so good was how the film was able to balance the amount of time we had with Shazam and how much time we had with Billy. Because literally in the first film, we literally had, I think, like a solid 20 minutes of just Billy Batson before he became Shazam. And in this film, Zachary Levi takes up 90% of the screen time, where Asher Angel only has maybe 3 or 4 scenes in the film, in the film as a whole. And whenever Levi is playing Shazam, he's just really dumb. This is kind of like a common thing I see when it comes to the film, and just I have a problem with is how when Billy is in his Shazam form, he seems to be very dumb, and Levi just makes it so much worse when it comes to him trying to pronounce Solomon. That's such an easy name to pronounce, and he just said Solomon. It was very stupid. It was very not good for me. And it's just I just felt like it was something that Zachary Levi could have done better in trying to handle the matureness of Billy Batson, as Billy is now getting older, but he really wasn't able to do that. But overall, this was still kind of a fun film. Again, visually it looked pretty good with the mythology of all the monsters that we saw, and even the weird twist of the unicorns. I thought that was really funny. But overall, this film really just brought it down for me because of Zachary Levi. At number 7, I have The Flash. Now, if you take away the Ezra Miller controversy and you take away the CGI CGI problems that this film had, this film at its core is a pretty good film. The story was pretty good. This film's take on Flashpoint was really fun. I did enjoy seeing Michael Keaton, Sasha Calle, and Ben Affleck all make their appearances in this film. The thing that just held us back for me was just and I think I said this in my Flash rewrite, where it's just the twist with the Dark Flash. That made no sense to me. I don't understand why we got that, and I don't understand why we had the whole cameos thing where we saw the different the Christopher Reeve Superman, the Nick Cage Superman. I don't understand why we got that. That made zero sense to me, story wise. And again, the Dark Flash, while he looked pretty cool, he really served no purpose. He really served no purpose when R. Barry had already realized that he needed to undo everything that he did. He needed to let his mom die. But overall, this film still had some very good moments. The fight scenes were pretty awesome. And having the scenes with Ben Affleck and his line where he says, "These scars we have, they make us who we are. Don't let your past define you." That was, in my opinion, one of the best lines that I've ever heard from Batman himself. And then seeing that final scene between Barry and his mom before Barry undid everything that he did. I think that was a really good thing. And Ezra Miller did do pretty good performance-wise as playing both older Barry and young Barry. Then at number 6, I have Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, the first project of Phase 5. Overall, I think this is definitely my least favorite Ant-Man film. mainly because of just how it was trying to do something that Ant-Man is not well suited for. I know that people are really hate on this film because of how they handled Kang. I think Kang, I think Kang's character was really good. Jonathan Majors, now that he's out as Kang, I can't really, I don't know what they're going to do with Kang now, especially with how that post-credit scene was with the Council of Kangs. I don't know how it's going to go now, but overall, it was okay. The MODOK stuff was okay. Seeing Darren Cross become MODOK, I thought that was interesting. The look of MODOK was decent. The CGI on his face was horrible, but you could see that it did pretty good. And just understanding how the quantum realm works and how there's like such a bigger universe inside the MCU was really cool. And a common complaint that I see with the MCU that I see from fans with this movie is how how Kang was easily beaten by ants. And I think in my own headcanon is the reason why Kang lost to Ant-Man was because he underestimated him. And you don't underestimate someone. If you underestimate someone, you're going to be surprised. And in Kang's case, he got his ass whooped by a bunch of ants, which in that scene where we see Hank Pym like charge him with the giant ants, I love that scene. I don't care what people say. I absolutely love that scene. And I think if anything, if this film could have been better is if they actually killed off Hank. If they killed off Hank Pym, you could understand. We as the audience could understand the stakes of how dangerous Kang can be and how ruthless he is. But it was still kind of an okay film. It was a good introduction to the Kang character and just like the whole more idea of how Kang is such a monster. But we'll see how his story goes in the MCU, however that's going to be. Then at number 5, I have The Marvels. This film is really hated. I don't understand why. This was a fun film for me. Iman Vellani absolutely killed as Kamala Khan. You could tell that she was just having so much fun playing her character of Kamala Khan, and especially that ending scene where she recruits Kate Bishop. That was absolutely incredible. I understand why people say that like Dar-Ben was kind of like a bad villain, but in my opinion, I feel like Dar-Ben was pretty good. Like while yes, she was kind of lackluster, her motivation was pretty good. I like we understand why she's doing all these bad things. We understand why she has such a hatred for Captain Marvel, and seeing how Carol in this film has more emotion than she did in the first film was really good. I really do think that Brie Larson absolutely killed it with the emotional side of her, of how she was able to figure out, like she was able to give Carol more personality than she was able to in the first film. Because a main problem I have with the first film was how dry Carol was in that movie. But in this movie, she's able to be a little bit more alive and have such a fun dynamic between Monica and Kamala. The whole idea of like the power, the switching places with their powers thing, I thought that was a really fun concept. And that whole musical planet thing, for me, it really didn't do anything because I just thought it was very cringe. And that whole Prince Yan character, he really did nothing. He did nothing. He only had like 3 minutes of screen time. And overall, this film was very, very fun. I did enjoy the whole Flerken scene. Nick Fury was really cool. Was kind of fun. And overall, it was still a fun film, but I can understand why people hate it so much, but it does not deserve all the hate it gets. Then at number 4, I have Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Now, this was the most recent and the final film to release for the DCEU. And when it comes to, and I said this in my review, this did a horrible job at wrapping up the story of the DCEU, but in my opinion, it did a fair way of wrapping up Aquaman's character. Black Manta, I think I said this in my review as well. Black Manta is my favorite DCEU villain. Yahya Abdul-Mateen II absolutely killed it. Patrick Wilson and Jason Momoa, they both killed it in their respective roles as Aquaman and Orm, and just seeing their brotherly aspect of it. The one complaint that I have with this film is just how kind of over comedy, how comedic it's trying to be. It's not in the terms of how overly comedic Shazam! Fury of the Gods was trying to be, but it still had some of those like laughs and jokes that I was just like, I didn't really laugh at, I didn't really care for. But overall, it was still kind of a solid film. Do I think it's as good as the first one? No, it is not. But it was still a fun film. It was still a fun film in its right, and it had a good story in its own right. But still kind of a very bad way to end the story of the DCU. But it was still a good way to wrap up Aquaman's story, in my opinion. Then at number 3, I have Blue Beetle. Now, this film is one of my favorite superhero films ever. Because I love the character of Blue Beetle. I love Xolo Mandueña in Cobra Kai. I was very excited when I found out that he was going to be playing Blue Beetle. And this film, while I know people said that it felt formulaic, it felt like it could be like a streaming film. That's because this film was supposed to be streaming on HBO Max, now Max or whatever. But Warner Brothers decided to make it a theatrical release, which I am so glad they did, because this film, it has heart, it's funny, it has that conviction. It made me hate Victoria Cord. I absolutely hated her character in a good way, because she was just so evil and so despicable, and that's what I really liked. The dynamics between Jaime and his family was really good, and just seeing how Jaime really, or more specifically, seeing how Xolo Mandueña was able to bring in his Cobra Kai like fighting style into the film was also really fun. And overall, this was still a very fun film, and I pray and well, I know for a fact that we're gonna see Xolo return as Blue Beetle in James Gunn's new DC universe, but I just hope that they at least make some of the events in the solo Blue Beetle film canon, because if so, that'd be very good. If not, I'd be very sad about that. But overall, it was still a very good movie, and I'm so excited to see where Blue Beetle's story can continue. Then at number 2, I have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. This was one of my most highly anticipated films of the year, and it did not disappoint. It surpassed them. The ending of the Guardians trilogy made me tear up. It had me on the verge of crying because of how much I loved the Guardians. The Guardians are one of my favorite superhero teams. I absolutely love them. Seeing how James Gunn was able to end his trilogy his way was so good. You can tell that it was very sad to see this version of the Guardians end, because like I know for a fact that months before the film came out, even like the days before the film came out, we were all speculating who was gonna die. I even made like some shorts like predicting like who I thought was gonna die. I thought for certain it was either gonna be Kraglin, Drax, or Rocket, but in the end they didn't kill any of them and wrapped up their stories so perfectly. And I honestly hope that we do see characters like we know for a fact we're gonna see Quill again sometime. Like we're gonna see Chris Pratt return to play Star-Lord at some point in the MCU. But I do hope that we get to see characters like Groot, Rocket, Kraglin, and that whole new Guardians team in another film. I know it's not going to be directed by James Gunn, but I hope that someone can make something new with that Guardians team, because that team definitely has something that could be uniquely used. The High Evolutionary, Chukwudi Iwuji absolutely killed it as the High Evolutionary. Definitely one of the most evil villains in the MCU. And I absolutely enjoyed the music, the songs, the music, the fight scenes. Adam Warlock was awesome. I know people were very, very disappointed about his role, but I thought that he served the purpose of the role very well. And overall, this is one of my favorite MCU films ever made. And obviously at number 1, you guys should have figured this. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, the highly anticipated sequel to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. This film did not disappoint. The whole Mumbattan fight scene is one of my favorite Spider-Man scenes. The Spider-Man chase scene, the build-up to that chase scene was incredible. But in my mind the whole time, and I just rewatched it like an hour, like two or 3 hours ago. I rewatched it, and it just seeing the Spider Society just also I'm sorry that you're hearing, that's just my grandparents. Seeing the Spider Society, the one thing that kept going through my mind was how they are kind of equal to the Jedi, like in like the Jedi Order, and how they have such strict rules and about canon events and what they try to do. How like they were forbidding Gwen and Peter to go see Miles, which was just so heartbreaking, because you could tell that Miles wanted to see them, and I could just feel Miles' pain when he just can't tell his parents about who he is and who he is as Spider-Man. And the Spot, he is one of my favorite villains in Spider-Man mythos. I'm very excited to see what they're going to do with him in Beyond the Spider-Verse whenever that film comes out, and especially seeing how the ending of the film made it, and see how it's pretty much going to be Miles' Spider Society versus Miguel's Spider Society. I think that's going to be really good. And in my opinion, like characters like Miguel O'Hara, Jessica Drew, and Ben Reilly, they're all kind of hypocrites when it comes to them being like the heads of the Spider-Verse Society. And I think Nando V Movies, he made a very good point about this, how the three of them specifically, they weren't given their spider powers the same way as every single other version of Peter Parker or Spider-Man variant has. So I don't know what the hell they're talking about, how they know what it's like to do that, because at least Miles got bitten by a spider. That's all I gotta say. But overall, this was such a beautifully shot film. I love the story, I love the characters, and I'm so excited to see what's gonna happen in Beyond the Spider-Verse. And there you have it. That is my ranking of all 8 superhero comic book films that came out in this year of 2023. We're going to have a lot of superhero related projects that are going to be coming out next year. Once it's 2024, I'm going to give you my ranking of like my most anticipated projects of just how I view them. But overall, I pretty much, excuse me, I overall enjoyed the lineup of films that we got this year. And let me know down in the comments what you thought of the lineup of this year. Give me your ranking of all the superhero films that came out this year. Let's have a good discussion. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button and hit the bell icon so you never miss another one of my videos. I'm Joshua from Rage Reviews, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.